Hello crafty friends, welcome back to another video. This is the first card made using my Capsule paper crafting collection, and if you haven't seen last week's video where I selected the items for the Capsule paper crafting collection, then I'll be leaving a link in the description below. So I'm going to be making this card using only those supplies that I packed, and I actually found this really fun. I've made a few cards now kind of in real time. I tend to try and film a few videos when I've got some time and then get around to editing them and uploading them for you all. So I've made a few now and I've really enjoyed the challenge of only using what's in front of me. So I grabbed my paper trimmer, sorry it was kind of off screen there, but I was just cutting down one of the sheets of cardstock to 4¼ by 5½, and then I'm going to grab this stamp set and the coordinating stencil from Rina K. This is a newer release and it is so fun. It's got these little fruit pieces. I'm going to be using the pineapple. So I have the body of the pineapple, kind of the crown of the pineapple, and then some of the detail, and then this little sentiment stamp here. So I put everything on top of the paper just to get some placement, and then I'll close the lid and pick up the stamp. And I selected 3 of my inks from Tailored Expressions. These are 3 of the dye inks that I included in my selection. And I'm going to start off with the green, which I believe was Pea Pod, and then I'll go ahead and stamp that down. Sorry the video is a little shaky in places. I'm using my Archon mount to film all of these, which is what I would use whilst traveling. I was supposed to be filming all these videos in Manila, but my trip was cancelled due to coronavirus concerns. As I'm sure a lot of you know, it's kind of a worldwide issue. There's been a lot of travel cancelled, and that trip was one of the things that's been cancelled. So I just relocated my craft space just to get the feel of crafting on the go. So I stamped the crown down using the green. I totally lied. That's the pea pod. The orange is a completely different colour. I've forgotten the names of them all, but they will be in the description below. So then I stamped down the yellow, and I didn't really like how that turned out. I probably should have stamped the yellow first or stamped down some white first to really make it pop. So I grabbed the white pigment ink and stamped that over the top, cleaned off my stamp, and then re-inked with that yellow, and I'll stamp it down again. I did let the white dry for a while in between, and then that just helps the yellow kind of pop off of that darker orange colour. So how cute is that pineapple? It is so sweet. You can also add the details using the stencil, which I think would be really fun as well, but I decided to just use the stamp for this part. Then I grabbed my Heffy Doodle memo tape, and without re-inking any of these stamps, I'm just stamping them again onto my memo tape so I can get the shape of the pineapple, because I'm going to go ahead and create a mask. I used my scissors to fussy cut around this, so I will cut some of this out so you're not watching me cut for too long. But once I got around the crown pieces, cutting the body didn't take too long at all. And then I can just lay that over the top of my stamping and it will protect it from any of the ink blending, which is what I'm going to do next. So part of the stamp and stencil set, there is this stencil here that has some of the details. So it has like the pineapple detail, it has the orange details, and it also has these circles that I'm going to be using as a little fun background on this card. I decided to keep everything pretty simple for this one, so ink blending I think is always nice on a clean and simple card. It just adds something a little bright. So then I've grabbed this yellow colour, the yellow meringue I believe it's called, and one of my Picket Fence Studios ink blending brushes. And I'm just going to ink that up and then dab off any of the excess and just work that in a circular motion through the stencil. I'm working on top of a white piece of cardstock that's been laminated, just so I have an easy clean surface that I can just wipe clean, and you'll see me use that a lot in my videos. I highly recommend it to anyone. It's a really cheap, inexpensive surface that you can clean up nice and easily. So now I'm just rubbing any of the excess ink off of the bristles of my brush. That yellow was a little brighter than I wanted it, so I rubbed off any of the excess, and then I'm just using a clean brush to blend that out so it's got more intense colour right around the pineapple, and then it just kind of blends away into nothing, kind of around those edges. So I'll peel up the masking tape. That was purple tape that I was using just to protect the edge of the card. And then I'll lift up that mask and you can see we've got that perfectly protected pineapple. That was a lot of peas. Okay, so now time for a sentiment. I have added the pineapple sentiment, which cracks me up. If you were a fruit, you'd be a fine apple. I think it's a brilliant sentiment. So I inked that up twice using my Onyx Black VersaFine ink, which is one of my favourites for sentiments, and I stamped twice just so it would be really, really dark. Now I decided to trim some of this down. At the moment it is card sized, it was 4 1/4 by 5 1/2, but I wanted to add some matting and layering using some black cardstock, so I'm trimming some of the edges kind of a nice even amount so I can keep that pineapple where I want it. I didn't kind of shift it further over to the left or the right because I trimmed from every side, if that makes sense. So I trimmed this piece down and I hadn't let that VersaFine dry. So I had to go ahead and grab my sand eraser to get rid of some of the black kind of fingerprints where I'd lifted up some of that ink with my fingers and made a mess. So I'm really glad I included that sand eraser. Now I'm using some of the black cardstock from my stash and I'm going to trim that down to be a little larger than my white panel, and that's going to give me the effect of the matting and layering behind this piece. I could also have used my Love from Lizzie peel-offs, which I included. I kind of snuck those in, but I wanted them to be a bit thicker than the thickest option of those, so I used some black cardstock instead. I grabbed 3 of my pencils just to add some shading and detail to this pineapple. You definitely don't need to do this, but it does add a lot of detail, especially in person. It just really kind of brings it to life, just having that little bit of shading, adding just some really basic, I essentially just outlined the leaves and then just added some extra colour to the orange and yellow sections, and it looks really great in person. You can kind of see it on the card here, but definitely kind of in person it looks really nice and it's definitely very noticeable. So I just worked through using my colours, nothing fancy at all with this, which is my favourite type of colouring. I did include watercolours in this kit, and you'll see with one of the cards that I have coming up in this little mini series that I'm not great when it comes to colouring or watercolouring or generally being arty. I can take somebody else's supplies and put them together and make something passable as a card, and I certainly enjoy the process, and I hope that you guys enjoy watching that process and learn from my successes and learn from my failures in equal measure, I think. But yeah, easy colouring is definitely my favourite type of colouring. So then to create my card base, I grabbed some more of my cardstock and trimmed that down, just cut it in half so I could create a top folding note card, and then use my mini scoring board to score that in the middle at 5 1/2 and fold it in half. Then I've got my Gina K tape runner and I'm sticking down that front panel onto the black mat, and you can just see how much that makes it kind of pop. Just adding that black outline I think is something really fun. So now I'm going to go ahead and add some adhesive onto the back here. You could pop this up using foam tape. I did have some of that packed, but I feel like I'm saving that for another card. I feel like with that black there's enough kind of depth and dimension just in the colouring of this piece. So I'll go ahead and stick that down to the front of the card, and that is this card finished. As I say, I love that stamp set, and I think this stamp and stencil combo is a really fun idea. I will have links in the description below to the products used so you can check that out. If you are new here, then I would love to have you as a subscriber. If you've enjoyed this video, you can go ahead and click on the like button and click subscribe and ring the bell if you wish to be notified whenever I post a new video. So that is all from me today. I hope to see you back here again soon. Bye for now.